Hey, so in this video, I want to share a little bit of information about mind reading instruments, MRI. These technologies are relatively new. They make use of neuroimaging technology combined with technology in order to translate the images. And I'm not exactly sure about one of them, which I'll show you, but the other one uses large language models to translate the neuroimaging from functional MRI. So I will show you those. The reason I want to show you those is because of this conversation about the future of democracy. And so my argument is that we've never had democracy, right? We've always had limitations on who gets to vote. And so with the introduction to mind reading instruments, you can begin to make use of these to determine how much power and influence people have. And I'm not going to prescribe exactly what should be done, but I'm just presenting it as an option for the future that perhaps the mechanism by which we elect representatives or people who have power and influence, whether they're in the media or whatnot, they would undergo tests using mind reading instruments to determine their worldview, their identity, their agenda. And they would do this regularly because we change over time. And so we would be able to detect people who are dishonest, who are not being honest about what they say they want compared to what they actually want. And we could even detect people who are, for example, very kind and loving and compassionate. And in this way, we could begin to scientifically select for the types of people. We can even measure types of people based on standards of measurements, and we can figure out which types of people make for the best for a specific role. We can be able to find a fit for people based on who they really are, based on an objective understanding of who they are, based on what's going on inside their body. And I would recommend opting into this and it not being forced on you. So, and I would volunteer as a candidate to use the mind reading instrument to in order to help with the science, in order to help gain trust among people who don't know me. And that's one of the main problems that this thing solves, is that within democracy we don't know who is trustworthy. And so these kinds of technologies help us know who's trustworthy. So without further ado, what does that mean? All right, here we go.
Let's go to another one, right? Again, this is another example of translation. So here, they took human beings, they stuck them into an fMRI machine, and they showed them images. And they taught the AI, I want you to translate from the readings of the fMRI, so how blood is moving around in your brain, to the image. Can we reconstruct the image then? The AI then only looks at the brain, does not get to see the original image, and it's asked to reconstruct what it sees, right? So when you dream, your visual cortex sort of runs in reverse. So this means certainly in the next couple of years, we'll be able to start decoding dreams. Okay, so it can reconstruct what you're seeing, but can it reconstruct what you're thinking, your inner monologue? So here they did roughly this, it's a different lab, but roughly the same idea. They had people watch these videos and would try to reconstruct their inner monologue. So here's the video. It's this woman getting hit in the back, getting knocked forward, okay? And then what did the AI reconstruct? I see a girl that looks just like me, get hit on the back, and then she's knocked off.
So you could imagine that people want to sign a peace treaty, and you want to know, well, what do these people think? And so could you imagine like a Joe Rogan style interview while using neuroimaging technology, recording everything that's happening, which can then be scanned afterwards to search for deception? You could even imagine that these neuroimages could be saved so that a future AI that's even better could analyze all of that data. And what this would do is that it would encourage honest people to be candidates, to participate. And so this would be integral. It would be, I would say, very good to be a part of the decision making and becoming someone who's qualified to be part of a decision making body. I'll show you another one. I shared this idea with Dr. Lenny Time, and he had recommended that it would be used for stroke victims. And so I'm going to share one where later on, a few months later, they were using this this kind of technology to help a stroke victim. So let's look at that.
Today is an opportunity for Anne and Bill to have a conversation through our brain decoding to facilitate what we think would resemble a future use of an actual real-life application of the technology.
We want to try to basically create a demonstration where we're decoding the text, the speech, and the avatar at the same time from Anne's brain as she tries to silently attempt to speak. We just trained some new models yesterday, so we might need to test it a little bit.
Okay.
Because, like,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll run
It
through
should
some
work.
practice runs.
The device is an electrocorticography grid, which is attached to a pedestal, which is screwed onto the participant's skull. Anne is the very first person to have this combination.
I think you are wonderful.
In the training lab, we really focus on restoring voice to people that have lost it due to conditions like stroke or ALS.
So you could see how this technology could be applied for medical reasons. But you could also, like, the applications for this technology are unlimited as far as knowing what's happening inside of someone's mind. You're talking about the sacrifice of privacy for the people that have power and influence. We've never done this before. So with democracy, we might say you have to be a certain age, or we might say that if you've done illegal things, you shouldn't be able to vote. And so we set up these limits for who gets to vote. And then we set up these limits for who gets to be a candidate. And so the question is it really democracy? But besides that point, focus on, well, what should the limits be? And I would suggest that we're approaching an era where we can create new kinds of limitations about who is qualified for what, which is amazing to me because, you know, I would like to present myself as someone who's honest and knows how to love everyone unconditionally. I would put it this way: wants to love everyone unconditionally. And you can take these kinds of statements and you could run. If you had neuroimaging, you would know if I'm trying to deceive you or not. And you could imagine some kind of format where people are having conversations, trying to earn trust, trying to allow people to vote for who should be a representative, who is trustworthy. And it would be nice to allow these candidates to have some amount of transparency and a lack of privacy while they are attempting to serve, because we want people who are going to try and be of service. And so this is my recommendation for how we can fix democracy, is that we make use of mind-reading technologies. And so in order to become a candidate, you would have to be willing to use these mind-reading instruments. I would say that would be a good start, that we do not allow people to have power and influence, whether it be in the mainstream media, where people have agendas, whether it be in these higher level education, where you have people who have agendas, if it's the federal bank or the international banks, like all of these places where there are power and influence, we could run these tests to make sure that these people are trustworthy, that they're honest, and they love everyone in the world. That would be good. So I'm going to leave with one more kind of pointing at the past. I'm remembering something China did, an application in the classroom. So let's look at that.
红色是表示你的专注力显示得很高，
Teachers at this primary school in China
蓝色是走神了，
know exactly when someone isn't paying attention.
白色就是你可能跟网络还没有连接好。
These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents. China has big plans to become a global leader in artificial intelligence. It has enabled a cashless economy where people make purchases with their faces. A giant network of surveillance cameras with facial recognition helps police monitor citizens. Meanwhile, some schools offer glimpses of what the future of high-tech education in the country might look like.
So there you have it. And the key is whether you get to opt in to use this technology or not. And so the way you would be able to do this, you could do this in a church, you could do this in a city where you agree you could actually charter your company or your church, your 401c3, your city, your organization, and you could experiment with using mind reading instruments in the process by which people are elected into positions of power and influence, whether you're in law enforcement or the military, or if you're a teacher or a lawyer or anything. We can begin to know how trustworthy people are. And I'd like you just to imagine that, that the leaders who receive the most attention, this is what I'll call them, because I don't see them as leaders. I don't see anyone in the world as being greater than me, right? And I don't see myself as being greater than them. We all have strengths and weaknesses. It's a lie to believe that there are people who they're more important than you are. And we all have strengths and weaknesses and gifts. And so I'd like to imagine a world where these humans are wearing a device where we get to know who they really are. Their mask comes off. We know their worldview, then we know their agenda, we know their identity. Basically, we undermine Satan and Satan's kingdom. All of the people who are operating in secret in order to hold on to power by shaping the way people's minds work through the influence of higher education systems and mainstream media, through military, law enforcement, all of these systems of power. We can use mind reading instruments to know, it's like, do they actually love, all the people who say that there's racism? We could narrow this down to a few principles. Does that law enforcer, does he love everyone? Does she love everyone? Are they telling the truth? So we can really know this. We don't have to guess at whether someone's racist or not, or if someone hates someone because of the way they look or not. We can actually find people who have pure hearts, and I believe they exist in the world. I'm trying to, I'm praying to have God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit baptize my heart. And I see changes where there's more unconditional love coming more often. And I'm not perfect, but I know from experience that just in my life that there was a point in my life where I would not have wanted that person to have power and influence. And I think you would have been able to detect it if you had been monitoring the activity of what's happening in this mind. You would be able to monitor and see, he doesn't love people. And then there would be, at some point you would say, it looks like he's starting to love people, and he's loving people deeply and more often. And I think you could actually measure that. And so we'd be able to look, for example, at Joe Biden or Netanyahu or any leader of any country or corporation or company or college or anything, church, the Pope. We'd be able to look and see how much love they have. We'd be able to know if they're lying and deceiving. So this is here, and we need to become interested in developing the technology and the process by which we ask people to use this technology in order to gain influence and power. We don't want our reality mediated by people who do not care about truth nor love. We do not want the media, which mediates our reality, to have an agenda which is selfish. So it's around the corner, guys. The tech is going to keep developing. It's going to keep getting better. So let me know what you think.